daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth, anniversary day. Anniversary of what? Of the deliverance of the greatest speech in American history. There's no question what that greatest speech in American history is. It's the Gettysburg Address. One of the leading experts on that speech and its constitutional meaning is going to be joining us later in the show. I'm very proud to say that Professor Akil Reed Amar of Yale University and of Yale Law School, who has written Born Equal, Remaking America's Constitution. It's a great book, and he is a great scholar who can help us put the Gettysburg Address in context, because it's never been more relevant than right now. We will get to that. Also today, it looks like we are very close to getting all that material on Jeffrey Epstein that has been disputed and debated over and fussed about, and a deep concern on people on both parties. The Reuters News broadcast today, Trump's White House tried to slow walk a vote on the Epstein files. It failed. The Senate passed the file exposure bill, not quite the same way the House did. The House passed on a vote of 427 to 1. And that Clay Higgins of Louisiana voted no. He's the only one who voted no on that bill because he was concerned about privacy impacts. Well, given the privacy of people who had anything to do with the scandalous Jeffrey Epstein, that train has already left the station. I mean, to talk about an old-fashioned Joe Biden. Joe Biden loved trains, remember? This train is already woo-woo by. It's gone. The Epstein files have moved closer to seeing the light of day. That reported by The Hill. Lawmakers have now taken a big step, a decisive step, I think we could say, towards securing the release of thousands of pages of documents tied to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, even as questions linger over the potential disclosure. Both chambers of Congress yesterday easily passed a bill because, unlike the 427 to 1 vote in the House, in the Senate, it was by unanimous consent. Nobody disagreed. So what happened to President Trump's fierce, ferocious opposition to publicizing, to releasing any of this material? Well, it flip-flopped and it changed. And where does he stand now? He stands now in a difficult moment where the polling about the upcoming midterm elections in next November, well, the polling looks disastrous for the Republican Party generally. Okay, why? We will get to that. Both chambers of Congress yesterday easily passed a bill calling for the Department of Justice to release files on Epstein, raising the specter that the political debate about the material's disclosure could be nearing an end. Wouldn't that be refreshing, like the end of the shutdown? Well, let's not compare at the moment, because President Trump has said he will sign the legislation after reversing his position on whether the documents should be released or not. Some critics and legal experts question whether this will be the end of the matter. The House passed the bill by a vote of 427 to 1, with GOP Representative Clay Higgins of Louisiana the only dissenter. Speaker Mike Johnson ended up backing the bill despite his long-term opposition to the discharge petition that forced the vote. And that is the point about all of this. If President Trump had wanted this material to be released to the public, as he promised he would do, he could have done it months ago. He could have done it last year. Could have done it at any time. But he didn't believe until the day before yesterday, not quite literally that, but almost. He didn't believe that that was appropriate. The Senate later passed the bill by unanimous consent, sending it to Trump for a signature. A White House official reiterated to The Hill yesterday that the bill would be signed whenever it gets to the White House. But what are they going to have it delivered by an on-foot messenger to the White House from the Congress? It's not that long a walk. And not that quick to get them a copy of the bill that has now passed the Congress of the United States, both House and Senate, with only one dissenting vote, a guy who will obviously become famous because of it. A group of Epstein survivors gathered with lawmakers, leading the push for the file's release, for a press conference at the Capitol ahead of the vote. Some of the women specifically went after the President of the United States, who spent months calling the effort a hoax until flipping to support for the release on Sunday. That was the day of the flip-flop. By the way, he has never explained what aspect of this entire dispute was a hoax. He loves calling things a hoax that his enemies do, but what could it possibly be? Meanwhile, a hearing is being held today, and this reported also by The Hill, a hearing on a motion from the former FBI director, James Comey, to dismiss the criminal case against him. He is arguing that he is being selectively and vindictively prosecuted by Trump's handpicked U.S. attorney leading the case. The Trump, this is another disaster in the making, and partially because Trump selected, handpicked, and then got exactly what he wanted, of course, from Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. He handpicked the attorney who was supposed to be prosecuting James Comey, and she is very beautiful. She is. She acknowledged it. And her name is Lindsay Halligan. And Lindsay Halligan has never prosecuted a criminal case before. So she's starting with this dubious case against James Comey, and it's coming out to be, well, very controversial, with the possibility of dismissal, which is being discussed today, becoming very real. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is issuing a $1 billion loan to help finance the restarting of the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant. This is decades after it suffered a partial meltdown in the country's highest profile nuclear accident. Okay, is this symbolic, or is this going to be an important source of new energy? Meanwhile, there's also news from Europe. NATO scrambled fighter jets in Polish and Romanian airspace as Russia carried out a massive overnight attack all across Ukraine, killing at least 19 people and injuring dozens more. What happened to putting an end to that war? One day after he took office, that was when it was supposed to happen. We will get to that and to more, and stunning polling that is breathtaking, actually, when you look at the rapidity with which things seem to have been reversed. We will get to that and more coming up on The Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, we were just speaking about the a massive overnight attack on Ukraine that occurred last night. The Romania's defense ministry, and Romania is relevant because the scrambled fighter jets that NATO scrambled included Romanian airspace, which was violated by Russia with this attack. Romania is one of the NATO nations, as is Poland, where, again, they are so deeply implicated and impacted by the ongoing war and the horrors of these recent attacks on civilians by the Russian army. This is all extraordinary. Romania's defense ministry said a Russian drone entered its airspace during the attack, which struck apartment buildings in the city of Ternopil. Dozens of people were injured in the attack, 16 of them children, and more are still trapped under the rubble. This is horrible. I mean, children, 16 of them last night, being killed for no other reason than they had the distinction of being born in Ukraine, being of Ukrainian descent, not Russian, pure Russian. More are still trapped under the rubble, Ukraine's interior minister said. The Russian attack involved 470 drones and 48 missiles. Think about that for a moment. 470 drones, all of them armed and explosive, and 48 missiles, and mostly focused on the western areas of Ukraine, which lie close to the borders of Romania and Poland. Many regions of Ukraine are without power today, following the strikes on the country's energy infrastructure. Okay, given the fact that there were meetings with Putin and discussions of a ceasefire, what happened to all of that? Where did that go? Could this be one of the explanations for another extraordinary story? And there's always polling, and polling is up, it's down, it's this, it's that. But there's a new Marist poll that is also co-sponsored by NPR and PBS News. And they asked people who say that they are likely to vote in the upcoming midterm elections next November, less than a year from now, and asked them which party they voters would back in the midterm elections that will determine the control of the House and the Senate. And all of a sudden, there's a clear leader, and the leader, unexpectedly, is the Democrats, with a 14-point lead over Republicans in national polling. This is stunning. It is the largest advantage Democrats have held in any Marist poll since 2017. Yet another positive sign for a party looking to make a comeback next year after a cascade of victories earlier this month in off-year elections. Among 1,291 registered voters who participated in the poll, 55% said they'd vote for the Democratic candidate in their House district, compared to 41% who said they would back the Republican. That is called a landslide. That, according to the survey conducted last week, another 3% said that they would vote for another party's candidate if there is one, and 1% were unsure. When voters were last asked the question a year ago, they were evenly divided, 48% to 48%. Now it's gone from evenly divided to a 14-point Democratic edge. Now, the reason that this is serious and meaningful is because there is a pattern, and it is a historic pattern, and it is an almost iron rule of history, is that a president who is taken over in the middle of his first term. And this was even true for Ronald Reagan, who was very popular and he was elected by a landslide in 1980. But in the off-year election of 1982, Reagan lost ground. The incumbent president always loses ground. The only exception to that was the off-year election right after 9/11, where President Bush's leadership during the immediate impact after 9/11 led to an unusual, highly unusual advantage for the incumbent president in the off-year election poll. The pattern today would be rough for Speaker Mike Johnson of the House Republicans, sometimes referred to as the squeaker of the House. And he spoke on the House floor. What's remarkable about this is that he seemed to ignore the fact that up until literally the last few days, less than a week, Mike Johnson was supporting the President of the United States, Donald Trump, in opposing any kind of legislation that would unseal, publicize, release, make accessible all these thousands of Jeffrey Epstein documents. Here is the Speaker of the House on the House floor, clip 7.
Democrats were never interested in transparency or executing justice or protecting the victims of this unspeakable tragedy before. The simple truth is obvious for everybody to see. This is a political exercise for Democrats, and it pains me to say it. I wish that was not the truth, but it is, and it's undeniable. This is as deceitful and dishonest as their pointless stunt was to shut the government down. Democrats are using the Epstein tragedy, the unspeakable evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best to try to tie President Trump somehow into this wretched scandal. The president had nothing to do with it. He's been very clear, and he has nothing to hide, and that's why he's endorsed the vote today.
Okay, he has nothing to hide? If that is the case, then why did he, for several years, oppose further information about Jeffrey Epstein? And what about that birthday drawing that President Trump claims he never did because he doesn't draw? Except it's there, and it's a very admissible evidence in this debate. We will get to further stages of the debate and more reactions coming up on the Medved Show. Now, speaking of the new normal, Representative Raskin of Maryland was on the House floor, and he spoke about maybe the beginning of the end of the Epstein files debates. Here is Representative Raskin, clip 6.
And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy, and then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail. And it was over in about a year after the rape and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of girls, and he kept going and he kept at it. We want the whole truth to come out. This is the United States of America. Even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about the American democracy? How about we say, no way, we're not going to allow this cover-up to go on for one day more?
Okay, that's impassioned when he's referring to the British monarchy. He's, of course, referring to the fact that Prince Andrew is no longer Prince Andrew. He now just is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, which is a tougher name to recognize. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, who had been fighting with great determination against this legislation, then turned around following the president's lead and voted for it. He was speaking to reporters in the halls of the Capitol and said that he and Trump had concerns about the final passage of the Epstein legislation. Why? Because in the view of Speaker Johnson, something was missing. This is clip 23.
Any reaction to Leader Thune seeing the bill without adding amendments or changing it?
I am deeply disappointed in this outcome. I think I'm told I've been at the state dinner. I don't know. I was just told that Chuck Schumer rushed it to the floor and put it out there preemptively. It needed amendments. I just spoke to the president about that. We'll see what happens.
So do you think he may veto it? You say you spoke to the president?
I'm not saying that.
Is he supportive of it in its current form?
We both have concerns about it, so we'll see. I was staying there with the Crown Prince. We couldn't call.
Are you frustrated in the majority leader?
He was on his way to a state dinner involving Crown Prince MBS Mohammed bin Salman, who got into his own unwitting debate with his view of the Khashoggi killing. In the view of Crown Prince Mohammed, he had nothing to do with it. The American CIA feels differently. President Trump takes the side of the Saudi Crown Prince. Scott Jennings appeared, who's always good on TV, and he's going to be joining us on the show next week. Scott Jennings, a very strong admirer of President Trump. He even put a heroic photograph of President Trump on the cover of his new book. And he tries to make clear on a CNN panel that the Epstein Files issue has nothing to do with President Trump. Here is Scott Jennings on CNN, clip 21.
So I just don't know why you're so fervent right now, saying that I know for a fact he has nothing. Can we see the files and make that decision? Scott?
Look, here's what I think. It's been going on for 10 years. If there was a shred of anything to know about Donald Trump, we would already know it. What do we know? We know.
Absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.
We know that Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein, and we know that he excommunicated him from Mar-a-Lago and his life. We also know that after Epstein was convicted, that powerful Democrats continued to stay in touch with Jeffrey Epstein. This is not a story about Trump. It is a story about powerful men. Many of them are in the Democratic Party. We're going to find that out. You can't wash away the politics.
Then there's another statement by the CNN host Abby Phillip. This is clip 22 about Trump and Epstein.
Joe Biden released zero. I actually totally agree. It is because of the MAGA base. It is the MAGA base that asked for it. It is also, Donald Trump who said he was going to do it. Now he's the one who has been flip-flopping back and forth on this. One thing I would also note, Donald Trump was a Democrat back when he was hanging around with Jeffrey Epstein. So talk of all the Democrats hanging around Jeffrey Epstein includes him.
And it includes him irresistibly. How do you speak about this when there are all sorts of third parties who indicate that they once considered themselves best friends? Some of their correspondence shows that they were close, meaning Trump and Epstein. And yes, maybe it was easier at a time when President Trump was still a Democrat. NPR's Claudia Grisales was on MSNBC, and she suggested some deeper meaning in the Epstein vote, which was so lopsided. It was virtually unanimous, unanimous in the Senate, unanimous consent, and 427 to 1 in the House. Here is Claudia Grisales, clip 8. Okay, we will get to that coming up, talking about the Epstein vote being a landmark in the terms of the history of Donald Trump's second term. And there's also something that you will hardly ever see. or hear about on this show, which is Alex Jones. Yes, the arch conspiracy theorists making some sense. On what issue? We will get to that and to more coming up on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, there is something very significant, say a number of observers at the votes in the House and in the Senate about the Jeffrey Epstein files, something much more significant than simply the impact on what we know about Jeffrey Epstein. We already know a great deal, and we know a great deal about his associates. And recently there has been material that comes out that suggests he was even at one point working on a documentary film with Steve Bannon. Remember him? Steve Bannon, who was pardoned by President Trump, was at one point the campaign director for President Trump when he won his first term against Hillary Clinton. That's Steve Bannon, the guy who does War Room, very popular podcast, was genuinely close to Jeffrey Epstein. And what's remarkable about some of this material that they have released so far is people like Larry Summers, whose life is just ruined. He just had to resign from the Harvard Board of Trustees. And again, he corresponded regularly with Jeffrey Epstein long after there was the at least partial exposure of his sexual transgressions. But some of this that's extraordinary is people asking Jeffrey Epstein for personal life advice, as if he was a positive model. Well, the problem for President Trump is that he has a very long record of influencing Congress and basically commanding the GOP majorities in the House and in the Senate. But all of a sudden, you have a situation where the feelings of the lower down in the totem pole Republicans, people who are members of Congress from a given district or a given state, when these people weren't influenced by Trump, they influenced Trump. They got him to flip because he knew he was going to lose a major vote in the Congress, probably both sides, Congress of both sides of the Senate and the House. He changed because the members of Congress had changed rather than changing them. NPR's Claudia Griselles was on MSNBC, and here's what she said about the significance, deeper significance as an indicator of the Epstein vote. Clip 8.
Yeah, the timing is really illustrative of the president getting closer to this lame duck period and Republicans willing here on Capitol Hill to step out more and more and not agree with the president with every directive that he sends to the Capitol. And so this Epstein vote was probably the largest show in terms of rebuking the president and his position now. And it's interesting with the timing for Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. People are starting to look at 2028 and who's going to be taking over for the Republican Party. And folks like Greene, others, may be well positioned in the end because they're standing out and they're defying the president. And at the other end of this, another interesting reminder is that the president is who really brought a lot of attention to this issue last year.
Okay, and that's also entirely true, which now, when he talks about it, after having talked about this issue last year and talked about it during his campaign for the presidency against Joe Biden, the idea that he is now attacking his longtime allies has offended even Alex Jones, big supporter of President Trump. He actually makes some sense when he was speaking to Eric Bolling and urging President Trump to stop the attacks on his fellow MAGA believers. This is Alex Jones, clip 16.
Trump is not God. We are big supporters, but we're not Democrat cult members where we don't question things. When we think something's wrong, we might be wrong too, but we're going to speak out about it. So you have these white pillars that say, you said on my show, I totally agree with you, don't ever question Trump, he's God, you're a traitor if you do. Then you have the black pillars that say, oh, he's a traitor, we're all screwed. No, he's the best shot we've got to save this country in the world right now. So when I criticize Trump, it is from a place of love, and he's our lifeboat here, trying to get him back on track. So in the MAGA Civil War, stop attacking Massey, stop attacking Rand Paul, stop attacking MTG, and because it doesn't help him in the end, and it doesn't help them, and it doesn't help America. So we're here, trying to get Trump to course correct. It looks like he's starting to do it.
Okay, then course correction means what exactly? There's an opinion by a Jeffrey Epstein survivor whose name is Helly Robson. She appeared on CNN with part of the way, questioning the way that the documents are being released and unveiled for public scrutiny. This is clip 15.
I know why he refused to do it now, and I will say that I am very skeptical of his position flip-flopping. I think the reason why the government was shut down for 50 days and why there's been so much delaying in the procedures of getting this, passed has been because there has been somebody or several people or maybe 1,000 that's redacting his name as we speak. That's my opinion. That's what I believe. And I think you heard it and saw it in the emails. He's the only hit dog, that hasn't barked yet. And I don't know what's true. I don't know what's not true. The files have not been released as of yet. But I will say, why would you not want to clear your name? To be tied to something this diabolical, I would be doing everything I can and taking every avenue to clear my name, regardless of what it took.
Okay, the question would be not why President Trump is taking the position that he's taking for the last 3 days, but why he took a very different position against disclosure of these documents for the previous 3 years, actually more than that. Another Jeffrey Epstein survivor, clip of 14, on actually reading the names of Jeffrey Epstein associates who haven't been identified yet, reading them on the House floor or the Senate floor. This is clip 14.
I think there will be specific names redacted heavily, and I'm not talking about the survivors. It's unfortunate that it's come down to that, but when you lose trust and you play the flip-flop and the back and forth, and especially with, women and survivors that have already had misplaced trust and have lost hope in our government to do the right thing, what else do you want from us? You want us to believe that this is all moving fast, there's no hidden agenda, and this is just going to be handed to us on a silver platter? Fair. We have to be very honest with ourselves, and this is just one more obstacle that we've overcome, but we do have a long road in front of us. And I did say today at Capitol Hill, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, Ro Khanna, if they want to, if it gets to the point of them going to the floor of the House and reading the names, I would be more than happy to support them and stand with them in solidarity because they championed this for us. If it wasn't for Virginia Giuffre and for the select few that have dedicated and authored this bill, we would not be sitting here today. And I am extremely blessed for that opportunity to read those names with them on the floor if it comes down to it.
Those names that they're talking about are not the names necessarily of the survivors, some of whom very much want their names to be mentioned, some not. But the names of people who were playmates, if you want to use that term, of Jeffrey Epstein, who were wrongly involved with all of this. We are going to be speaking about a higher level subject coming up, which is the anniversary of the most significant address in American history. I don't mean an address like where you live, but an address about the nation in which we live and how it changed thanks to the Gettysburg Address, which occurred on this day and changed our world. We'll be speaking about that with Akil Reed Amar, perhaps the greatest, most respected constitutional scholar in American academia today, finding the essence and glorifying this greatest nation on God's green earth.